This is from the damn Peter Nygard fucking account.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, one last thing. What we would like to do right now, for the past couple of years, we have been trying to get law enforcement to go after Peter Nygard. We failed with Homeland, and I think there was either a cover-up or some, possibly some corruption there. I'm not quite sure.
Yep.
And the FBI had an investigation. That led nowhere.
Yep.
So we're thinking, well, fuck U.S. law enforcement. They haven't brought anybody down. I mean, with Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, all these guys, the Me Too movement, the Time's Up movement, the press has destroyed all these. We're beating our heads against the wall trying to get, very timid prosecutors to get involved and go through the time-consuming legal process and subject the witnesses to all the... Okay,
for some reason, Peter Nygard's people, his clan, think that's supposed to be helping Peter by putting that thing out, right? So he was found to have been the guilty party. Nygard was the guilty party trying to target Bacon, right? And then he tried to plot like horrible things, right? And I said I had a gunshot by my window in Riverside. I don't recall if I was on this story yet. So, I pulled up, okay, so I talked about that Tupac thing, right? The Thai thing over there, right? But the problem is, what I said is that it's hard to know who's doing what here because there is multiple people in this thing. And for me, there's so much information to say that it's like the only way you're going to figure it out is knowing all that information, and you could look at it and go, oh, maybe it's this thing, right? It's hard for me to know because the people involved in this thing, it could be any one of these people, right? But what he's saying is he's basically outing government as being corrupt in it. Yes, the reason why they're corrupt in it is because they're involved in it. And as you see, it was the same thing in the Bahamas that they were involved in it. But here, yes, they were 1,000% involved in the human trafficking ring. They were 1,000% involved in this other human trafficking ring. Yes. And then they 1,000% knew that the Alice camp had kids and all the shit, right? That actually has a long history thing. And so when they were told what happened, right? So I'm the one that ended up being tossed in the street, right? With a gutter map. And during that was when Nygard's building caught on fire by me, right? It was around the corner. It was literally around the corner. And that's where my paperwork went. And that's where the law enforcement sent it, right? So the original initial thing that needed to be investigated was the portions with fucking, you're talking about the Hollywood division. Now you see one of Nygard's friends hanging out with the Hollywood division, okay? You don't want to see none of this shit going on. But it's going on, guys. So I brought it up because I'm sitting there going, I don't think the gang members, I have a hard time with the gang member thing because, like I said, if they had a problem with me, they're going to make sure I freaking know. They would have been chasing me around. They would have been making threats. They would have just done something horrible to me, really. But actually, it was a different thing going on. And I was quite confused by it. So it's like I have to kind of out the story to either exclude something or include something. So it's one of those things where it's like, I have to because law enforcement didn't do anything. Government didn't do anything. The human trafficking hotline didn't do fuck shit, okay? And they were being dealt with all the way in 2010. Or 2010 or 11, right? In that portion right there. And then they let the perpetrator kill himself, right? One of them in this thing. And I'm like, this is insane because this should have never happened. It's another like Jeffrey Epstein thing where, he never got held accountable because they just let that whole thing go, right? So as you see in the Jeffrey Epstein thing, it's the same bullshit, right? They're all involved because everybody's a goddamn rapist. So they were all fine with getting girls. They don't care the ages. They were bringing us all in here trying to do that shit. And I got raped 1 million times from a bunch of people. Now there's a couple suspects and we don't know who they are, okay? And so that makes this even more difficult because it's like, are some of those people trying to block this? Like, what is the deal here? So they never obtained that information from me, the nitty gritty details of each of those perpetrators, right? Because when they're talking to me on the phone, they're like, we don't have time for all this. Like, honest to God. And I'm like, well, no, you need to get that information. Otherwise, how do you get the story, right? You don't know the perpetrators. So, but they spend all this time with the suspects, right? Haven't you seen them? They bring them into a back room, right? And they sit with them for hours to days on end, right? Questioning them, right? Asking them all this stuff. But with victims, they're like, few minutes. We don't have time for this. They've been that rude, you guys. And it's like, there's no way to get this story because I have so many perpetrators in it to sit there to talk to me in that way. And so, yes, it's them. It's 1,000%. They're involved in it. 1,000%. And also, if you'll note, when he contacted law enforcement, because somebody did an FBI in the 2015, I think it was 2015, somebody did FBI. I don't know if it was Bacon that contacted FBI in 2015. Somebody did, right? So then I said, I went onto the Google map and there's a guy literally standing on Nygard's fucking balcony with an FBI shirt on. I think it's one of the joke ones though, but he's standing there with an FBI shirt on. Like, is it a joke or is that one of them? Like, what's the thing here? So those men are no different than anybody else in this story, that they would be down with raping some kids and raping adults, right? And human trafficking them, because their whole thing and their MO was, we got a lot of money. We treat these bitches like shit and they're going to fucking dance for me. And they're going to do this shit. And I have an expectation that they need to have sex with me. That was government. 1,000% government out here. So I can't speak for Canada and I can't speak for Bahamas, but I can see it's the same thing going on because they're talking about it. And I go, yeah, same thing here. Why do you think you're going to be treated any different here? It's actually worse here because they have more money here in this cesspool of shit, right? So it's just funny that Nygard thinks that this is helping him out by posting that up. It was like, oh no, it actually exposed more shit in this. Bacon won, okay? Bacon was in the right, and it was Nygard spinning the conspiracy. And he went on TV, and I found this channel from the Bahamas, right? They're sitting there just spinning it all over the fucking place. And, and then people listen to it, and they think this guy's the bad guy. It's like, I can't say that he cares enough about the women in it. But he certainly was fucking had it up to here with Nygard's bullshit, trying to go at him. But yes, it's true. Yeah, you tried to contact the same people that I did, but I actually talked to those people in person. There was a whole bunch of people. Like, I talked to law enforcement. I talked to law enforcement was involved in the whole thing. Because it was law enforcement that let me get kidnapped and raped. So they were totally fine with me getting raped. They were out here just like, yeah. And those are the guys hanging out with Nygard's pals, right? I go, yeah, that right there is really bad. Now, I haven't seen any of the cops other than when they go into the Rampart story, then those cops, some of them, I guess, are pals with the Shug people, those people over there, because they went to go work with their security. So, but that's telling you more things. Like, it may not be directly related to them, but it's telling you that there's these cops, these really effed up cops that are dealing with these celebrities on a level where they're at the locations, they're doing work for them, so then they want to help cover it up, right? There's so much bad in this. But the one thing I don't get is what is this fucking connection to the hypno school? At the time, a lot of people thought it was hokey pokey, right? And some people may still think so. But it's like government views it as like brainwashing. I don't know, something weird because they started targeting me over it. But I have a credential because I had went to the thing. But yeah, it said that it gives you credits for college like a real school would. And so I'm like, well, no, so it's all legal. So government has no say. Why are they sitting there controlling me saying I can't do anything? That makes sense to you guys? Yeah, they're telling me I can't practice. I can't do it to anybody or something. I can't make money off it. I can't, whatever I want to do with it. And this started though after they were notified of the lawyer that came out trying to get me to do that shit for payment. there's lawyers involved, so the lawyers and the DAs do not want to get involved in it because they're all involved. So I don't trust a goddamn thing that our state is going to do for Nygard. Now, Canada, there's a thing going on over there, but no, I'm saying right now because they didn't go after this other stuff. They've been trying to argue with me. It's totally cool that this celebrity guy got a kid across the state. So you think they're going to be upset about that? No, because when I got here, then they all rate me like a million fucking different guys. And when I'm a kid. So I'm sitting here, this is government trying to argue this stuff is okay. We view this as okay, and we're the one that set it up. Yes, because I'm the one that talked to the cops at the time of.
To get involved and go through the time-consuming legal process and subject the witnesses to all the pressure of a high-profile crime, let's just do a class action suit. Those are the most aggressive lawyers in the world. And frankly, the environment right now, with Me Too and, everything since Harvey Weinstein, is perfect for that. To do that, we have two avenues. We've got a U.S. class action suit, and that would have to have been involved. That would have to be a girl who has traveled in the United States with Peter Nygard for sex.
Yeah, but the count is trying to say that this makes him look bad. I'm like, no, he's being reasonable because what he's saying is the class action. That's what I was saying, the class action too. On the human trafficking ring at the other place, I go, yeah, if we had a class action suit, it probably would have been much easier to take them all down. But what happened was I went to the labor board instead thinking, and instead it was massively corrupt, right? So what they did was said I complained about lunches. I was like, I could tell you right now that was not the complaint. It was inside the complaint. It was one of the things inside the complaint. But I'm telling you right now, that was not it. So they did a shady thing and tried to pay me off with $600. $600. And people don't understand that I had no say in that amount. Nothing. So regardless of, whatever went on here, they already shelled out the payments to all the girls without me knowing or agreeing to any of that or anything, okay? They did it behind my back, and they weren't even going to tell me that I had even money at all, okay? So there was nothing, the only thing to do is then thereafter dispute it because it was something done without my knowledge. That's what happened. And at the same time, they were targeting me here, so there was no way for me to get that information. So that's basically what happened in it and why I didn't know and, a number of things in it. And I was dealing with the detectives for a missing person. And then they tried to put the missing persons crap onto me. It was fucking insane. Insane that they did this. And the cops were finding enjoyment over the person that they were dealing with harassing me. So they let him drive up on the lawn with his truck and put his high beams onto the house, and the cops came. They're just like, whatever. And then they came into my house illegally. There was a lot in that, and the cops knew that I was dealing with the cops. I was dealing with the LAPD detectives, trying to figure out where this person was. But technically, that person has a tie to the ring because that's how I met them, because they came in there, but they were trying to pretend, or maybe they weren't with them, but they were part of that group of people, and they were presenting themselves as a person that's going to help me out of that, and I can go get another job, right? And then I was going to go pursue the ring of people here, right? And so I eventually did, after he went missing, and then my friend died. And then there's questions about my friend dying, okay? From the individual that she ended up with. Because there's a shady thing in that, you guys, big time. And trying to tell LAPD the further story at that time would have just made this a whole, not in 2001, no way. They were corrupt as shit. They still are, and they didn't give me my money back from the corruption scandal of Rampart. They didn't give me back. I'm owed for the cover up of the drug ring and them getting me kidnapped and raped. So they're not cooperating with me because they're part of it. That's the thing. So because they're part of it, they're not cooperating, which if you were a guilty party in this shit, why would you cooperate, right? That's why. It has nothing to do with they don't believe me. This is ridiculous because there's photos everywhere of these people with children. There's people that came out and said other people in that circle of things are victims as well. And it was a lawyer that I told my story to that wanted to brush it off like this is totally normal. And it was normal for them. It was. That's just factual. It was. And so for them, they're not outraged by it, right? So that's like me telling Nygard's pal Danny, hey, Nygard's raping some girls and, pimping them out. He would be like, whatever, right? That's the government. That's why they're acting that way. So they were, and then if you went in 2015, like I was saying, government had an MO to target Backpage. So they were actually targeting women in that thing. They weren't targeting actual human trafficking. So it was hidden behind this fake crusade. Like they tried to get the public to be on their side to target our gender. So you're conflicting with government's piece of shit MO in that bust, right? So I was conflicting with their bullshit too, right? I was. And so they sent me out. FBI's like, you have to go do the investigations yourself in your state first, and then we might get involved. That's what they said originally, right? But I gave them a long list of how dangerous this was because it wasn't just cops, right? And I was like, well, I don't even, what in the hell? Like there was another story in this where it could have involved a murderer, right? Like some other psychotic. And it took me since 2014 when I did the investigation thing to figure out that story is not related to our stuff at all, thankfully. But it was kind of muddying everything up because I'm like, oh yeah, there could be some rich guy all pissed off coming after me like a Peter Nygard, right? But luckily that's not involved in our stuff and it was totally just erased out of the story. So now it just zooms right into the initial portion of the story, which was the cover-up of the drug ring and them getting me raped and the cops and everything else, that whole thing right there. So it's like, well, what is, what's being covered up here? I don't think it has anything to do with the gang members because, at least what I know, like I'm saying, there can always be something else going on in the background that I'm not aware of, but it didn't appear that they were operating together. That's why it's been kind of like, but like I said, the people that were involved in that were white people for the majority. So then again, you're talking about a time period where the white cops were pissed off at people of color and particularly black males. So why the hell would these white cops be in this thing with these fucking gangbangers? You know what I mean? Like this thing's going on. But what was happening is them targeting the gangs. And so then you could see this like dual thing going on where it's like Rampart and they're targeting, say, like the Crips or something. You know what I mean? Like this thing, they're targeting them. So they're present, right, in this thing. And they're coming in, and it's a fucking, it's not an easy thing. And I love sleuthing case, going through the cold cases and thing. And they're having me try to figure this out. Like they act like I know something. I mean, what I know is something that I probably am not thinking that it would be relevant because that's the only thing that I do know that happened was the cops being corrupt. That's a major thing. Then they were being corrupt again in the secondary thing, which is the ring, right? That other ring. Then they were being corrupt again, in multiple things here. And some of the people in that stuff have a relationship with this universe of Nygard. But to what extent? They're not speaking. Do you think, I don't think that they'll speak because they're being shit. They were shitty as fuck to me then. And I'm just in here going, why is Florence Henderson, her fucking ass up in here? Why is that other woman, a fucking Gary Busey's up in there too? But they're from the same school, right? I mean, it's the school people. So, yeah, I said there was a story inside that was bizarre from the other girl. And that other girl, if anybody's related to him, it'd be her. And yeah, so there was some weird thing with that. Because then later, some shit happened up in there. And I'm like, that shit's fucking weird. It shouldn't have happened to begin with, but it's bizarre. Because my friend's saying, don't mention her. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm seeing this lady, right, at the place for, you know, this therapy thing. And apparently it would be relevant because if I mentioned her to that lady, there would be problems here. But I didn't know that. Like, what are the chances of this? Some shit's going on. And I'm like, there's other people. Like, I don't know what she was claiming some other bullshit. But then this is going on. And then I find out later, oh, yeah, that lady, because I tweeted her and I go, oh, yeah, I went to the school, yeah, you know, because I was doing this shit and not knowing anything about this. And it became relevant later in the story because then Gary's his buddy and then she's there hanging out and doing all this shit. And I go, yeah, and then there's Florence. So both of them with the relation with the school and I was there. Yeah. And then Florence is with, you know, young little Greg over there. Everybody's like trying to okay this thing. I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck with that. Yeah, but I never saw her at the school, which is the crazy thing. But the guy that they were talking about, that's her son. So the son, maybe it's the son that has the relationship with Nygard. I don't know this. See, this is information that people, you know, they need to fucking spew their shit. They're not going to, right? They're being very uncooperative. Bacon was having a hard time. I'm having a hard time because there's girls in here that want to cover up their shit. And technically, they're probably victims of all this stuff, but that's the way they're viewing it, right? So then they want to protect the house, right? So, yeah, so I was sitting there going, okay, what are the chances I go rent a room and this guy is fucking friends with them? Like, what the fuck? And, no, I didn't know that. It was a weird thing. They're like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, really? And then I get choked, right? Then the cops come and they cover it up. I'm like, this is insane. I don't want anything with this universe of people because it's a chronic thing where those people, their people harm me, then everybody covers it up and then they throw me out in the street and everybody doesn't want to, you know, they leave the story, right? And then the cops are helping harm me and shit and they're fucking up in my room and my fucking house and hanging out and fucking Homeland, whatever that shit is. I don't want to say it's Homeland itself. It's just somebody that had some tie with Homeland. And that's all I could say. I did not want to look deep into that. It creeped me out because those people, I want nothing to do with that part of government. And I don't know why they were fucking around up in here. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things where I saw it and I did not like that at all. And I was thinking like, God, do they think I'm a terrorist? I was like, you know, so then, but here's the thing with it is that they were trying to bust Backpage. And I go, yeah, if you're going to go by conversations that they brought up Backpage. And I was looking through it and I was like, yeah, how fucking weird is this? And then I was getting targeted and then they were just saying, yeah, we know that's not you. It's somebody else. They put enough different information to, you know, say to know it's not me. And then they fucked up my business and then I had to change things because I was like, somebody's trying to imposter me. And then I was thinking, oh, I think that's government trying to do that, maybe. And that may be the thing, or, you know, I don't know, you guys. The whole thing is whack as hell. And so, but the site had been used by a lot of people from the job place too, by the way, when they did, like, I guess people put ads out maybe to bring people into the job place, the legal job, right? So it wasn't what they're talking about. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. So then, I didn't think anything of it. And then, yeah, so then they go and, so then my reports are supposed to go to the people that are part of that, right? But I didn't know they were part of this scheme. And so I'm like, why are they fucking up my reports? Like, where I can't send it to the state attorney. Because if I can't send it to them, then nobody's going to get anything investigated, right? And it wasn't me giving them a wrong address. It's them trying to claim that they never got an address, and that's not correct because I have the original address from Beck sending me a mail saying that thank you for filing your report. We take everything seriously. And obviously they don't. And then why would you send it to some random address without even... They're investigators, you guys. So you're an investigator. You're going to send my police investigation to a fucking address that's not mine? So they did that. And the facts are, Nygard's building was around the corner. Now, I'm sitting here thinking, is there some other, because there can be, and that's the thing about it, is like, there's some people in here that I question because there's a lot of rich men, right? So they were trying to send me off to that Gary Belt's fucking house. I'm like, well, Gary Belt has that connection with the Hard Rock, and the other guy from Hard Rock, I believe it was Hard Rock, they're pals with Nygard. So I'm like, fuck, no, I'm not going anywhere. Thank God I didn't go anywhere, you guys. So I put out information, and if people want to help with that information, they can add things to the topic, because it could send me somewhere else, but, and then I have to be careful of people trying to lead me off, because to me, it's like, I don't want to insert myself into another story that I'm not a part of, such as I wasn't any part of any of the gang, rivals or any of that. I wanted to make that clear, because holy shit. But the initial portion there, and then I thought it was interesting that the human trafficking ring did not identify the two individuals. So what could have been helpful with that, they wouldn't have, those guys wouldn't even have got arrested. I think you guys should know this. Even if it happened in the 1992 portion, what they would do is probably question them and try to figure out who the girl was, where'd they meet her, then they would throw him off probably. And, or they could have found out, they could have, watch, for an example, they could have found out, like, she's a property of somebody else and just happened, some other crap, you know what I mean? Some other thing, or they finally rescued her and it was out of the way, right? But here's what's important, and in that case right there, was them to identify that third party. Because the third party, I don't know who the fuck that is. Is that their buddy? Is that somebody else? Because if that's somebody else, there's some questions in that. And that's why I was like, okay, but it's important to figure out who that person is, because that person spoke with them. And so regardless of even the kid thing, right? There was a number of things right there that needed to be answered. And it's still kind of like shady right here. Like, I don't know what that thing is right there. But they were not after me. They were being protective of me, so nothing bad happened within these guys and stuff like that, right? So I was like, yeah, let's not make them a flop. And they hated the ring. They hated, I saw him. They were trashing that guy from the ring, and I'm sitting there going, I don't think they're part of the ring, though. I'm just being honest about it. It isn't, I mean, it's not like I could take down the drug ring now. You know what I mean? Like that thing right there. It would be a bigger deal if there's a bigger ring of things going on. Yeah, like it's like a extension of something. Then, yeah, then I'm treading into some territory that's extraordinarily dangerous, which that may be what's going on here. But I wouldn't be privy to any external things of theirs at all. So somebody was covering up something, and that's why I was like, what are they covering up? Are they covering up the places they went? because they put it on me, you guys. So that's why I was like, well, and even if I was present, right? Let's just say, because there was a couple of cases where they had me drive somewhere, and with the other girl, right? Not really knowing what these people are doing, really. And, yeah. And so even if I was present, I wasn't a part of whatever they did, right? So, they could be meeting up with somebody that's trying to cover up this. And, but the other cases, they legitimately stole a car multiple times, and it's so stressful because the day that it happened, it was so insane. I go, okay, so you know that they did it, and you're gonna put it all on me to cover up this fucking shit right here. Yeah, and I knew they did that, and I was telling my dad, I go, this shit's fucking wrong. Why are you paying it? Like, you should be fighting them. Why are you paying it? Because the guy stole it. Those people stole it. Listening to somebody saying I've been trying to go at Homeland is saying that that person is not corrupt. I mean, they could sit there and be trying to get somebody in trouble for no fuck reason, but if you're trying to go at a government agency, most people, I'm going to say this, most people legitimately think they're not corrupt and they're trying to get down to the bottom of some criminal activity, right? So it'd be stupid if Bacon was a criminal trying to go at fucking Homeland. I don't think I had to call Homeland. Like, that's the thing. I was like, CIA. I go, I don't think I had to call CIA. Because they're like international spy agency, something. Like, I would have nothing would be relevant to it other than, they could think something with the Russian guy, right? But I don't know what the hell they did with that. Because he had he had passports and all sorts of shit. Okay, so I didn't know nothing about that. So then no, the only option was FBI because everybody was saying like go to FBI because there's these other like the other things in the story, right? That would be the most logical other place you would go if local law enforcement is not being cooperative. Like, you couldn't do it because they're the perpetrators in the story. So I already knew that. So I was like, yeah, I can't go to them. Because if I go to them, they're just going to cover up this thing. So, but then there's other people in it that, like celebrities, judges, other people, right? That I cannot go after that because I'm not equipped to go after that. How the hell am I supposed to go after some corrupt judge? They were trying to tell me in 2007, it was in 2007, I think, that I should go sue the judge. And it's just people that don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do about the corrupt judge. Because the judge is corrupt in the case. And it correlates to LAPD's threat on me. And I don't know where they got this information about my other friend. Like, it was complicated. So I'm sitting there going, I don't know why this is occurring. And the city told me, LA County, the code office, the county itself, was telling me that to go in there and then they were going to give me my money back and move out costs. So I wasn't even bothered about going into court. But technically, there shouldn't have been a court case at all because it's just retaliation over an illegal property that you cannot legally get money from an individual for doing, right? Just generally, because that's just the laws. So I was just like, yeah, so they were just kind of like, go in there, you know, because basically by law, they can't really rule that way. And so they created a scheme and a scam with all those people. It was a bunch of people. It was crazy. And they made up that I barricaded myself in a fucking back at a game room. I was like, there's no game room on that property. The city has photos of it. And so for me, for my case, I brought the photos, right? So nobody could try to do that. Well, the judge didn't want to see it. And so they basically said I couldn't defend myself in my case. That's what they argued basically in the courtroom. I'm like, okay, this is corrupt as hell because I need to be at least able to make my defense, right? And so if I can't make my defense by bringing up the photos and where it says it's a guest house, not a game room, which it was on the lease, right? And that it was separate, then I have no fight, right? Yeah, so they did that. It was totally a setup. And I'm like, oh, well, the people that wanted to do the setup was LAPD. So, but I don't know why those people would have a conversation with LAPD unless LAPD went to them, or they, sheriffs told, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. Because I didn't give them that information. I don't know where they got that from about my other friend. So somebody did something here, and then they created a story that wasn't true, but it wasn't backed up. Like, the story wasn't true and it wasn't backed up. So the information that I had with proof to show as a defense, for the defense side, I brought it. So I had photos of the inside. I had the city's paperwork. I had the lease where it said guest house. So that's the property that the city wants to tear down, because they told them prior to me moving in, you guys, that they needed to tear it down and they were not allowed to do that, right? So they told them that prior to me moving in. So I brought all that to show the judge for the defense of what's going on here, because I had to move anyway, right? So it wasn't a case where I'm trying to squat, because you can't squat in a house that they're going to tear down. So it was me telling them, yeah, I have to move. So, but they rented me a property that was already illegal, and I was on a year lease or something like that. Yeah. So instead what they did was they threw me in the street, and then they wanted more money for me to give them, something like that. I was like, nuh-uh. So I went back into the city and I go, okay, here's what the judge did. And so once they got the paperwork of the judge thing, they go, oh, well, we can't do nothing for you. Sorry, bye. That's what they did. And I was like, I'll be damned. They're corrupt as shit. So it happened again, right? Again. It happened again. It happened again 10 years later. 10 years later. Almost 10 years later, it happened again. Almost a very similar same thing. And so my property that I rented I had it for 5 years almost. The city knew there was a problem with the property, okay? I didn't know this, okay? But I move in and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to get into any fucking legal bat. I do not want to do any of this, because it's going to end up with me homeless or something, right? It always ends bad because they're corrupt, right? The housing people are corrupt. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work with the owners. They need to fucking fix it. They need to fucking fix it. They need to fucking fix it. And I work at home, so it's hard for me, this whole thing about it. And then this drama, though, happened during the investigation. That's why I said, it's a setup, because there was no man there. There was absolutely no man in that fucking rental place. None of them. I was there for almost 5 fucking years. There was no man there. Some man comes pounding at my door, and he starts chewing me out. And I'm like, who the fuck is this son of a bitch? Yeah, just randomly, at random. And then he was totally in the wrong. And then he doesn't even apologize. And then they start sicking him on me. I was like, what the fuck is this? And so, I don't respond properly to no man doing that kind of thing here. So I said, you need to fix it or you're not getting paid, dude, because this shit I've had it. And because I was going in and out of the doctor's office and I was very ill, and because of the place, right, which was their fault. And something else had happened. The government kept coming to my door just about like 2 years prior, and then they came to my door another time trying to get me to get information on the property. But they already had a complaint. They already knew about it, right? But they wanted me to get involved so I can get evicted, basically. That's what was going to happen here, okay? So I was like, yeah, no, I already know what's going to happen if I start outing that shit. So what I'm trying to do is be cooperative and fair and trying to get them to fucking fix it so it doesn't turn into this legal battle. Because what's going to happen is the same shit's going to happen. What did happen? That same shit happened, right? There you go. So I knew, because I'm smart, I fucking know how it's going to end. Not fucking well. However, on this one, I did get a win on it. Not the proper thing, because my lawyer is corrupt. I end up getting this most corrupt fucking lawyer that you could ever get. And by some fucking Christian loons, and then I get thrown over here. And I'm like, this is against my will. This is not the fucking plan. So this was not what I wanted. This is not how this was supposed to go. And it's not really, I didn't agree to all this. I had to do it, because what the fuck? So yeah, there was a whole thing to it. And then they forced me onto this other thing so government can go through all my shit. I'm like, okay, this is absurd. So then the last thing from them was asking me if I had AIDS. And I'm like, that's it. And I fucking flipped out. And then all of a sudden those people flee. And they don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to do anything. And they made threats to me. They're like, you can never get rid of us. I'm like, okay, this, it's a prison. And I was demanding the whole time, get me a fucking lawyer now. You need to give me referrals right now. That's what I need. Referrals. Give me the referrals right fucking now. And then so I was posting on Twitter. I was like, I do not want to be here. Yeah, and I think they took it like I want to kill myself. I was like, oh, fuck you, motherfuckers. Fuck you. I was talking about here, and they take things out of context so they can target me more, right? That's a good example of it. Because I was like, no, this, here, I do not want to be here. Because the thing was to be somewhere else. Because I was planning on moving out of the fucking state. And they fucking... This is the second time they kidnapped me in the fucking state when I'm trying to leave fucking LA, right? Because the first time was in fucking 92 when I'm trying to drive out of the fucking county there. And then they fucking did that shit right there and I couldn't escape, right? This is the second time they did that shit against my fucking will. Yeah, you're gonna be pissed. And they're sitting there like, you need to put that you love everybody on fucking social media. I'm like, fuck you, I don't need to fucking love anybody doing this shit to me. Yeah, so it was that. They did it against my will completely. And I even told the office when I went in there, I go, this is against my will. And they think I'm nuts and they just ignored it. I go, if somebody tells you that to your fucking face, you need to fucking check it out. Because if they checked it out, they would have found out those ladies were fucking liars and they were obtaining very private information of me all the way down to me buying fucking tampons, okay? And then wanting to know if I have STDs. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, this is insane. I've been on this planet for decades, okay? I have never had anything like that. And it's illegal to ask that and to use it towards somebody so they can discriminate on you. But why were they asking that? Because I'm not moving somewhere, right? Like, they were saying they were going to go tell landlords that I have an STD, basically. And I'm like, I don't have a fucking goddamn STD, you fucking perverts. Why are you asking that to begin with? Yeah, and then they fled, right? They fled. I was so fucking mad. I've never had anything like that in my life, dude. I'm sure the gays have, but I was like, what in the hell is that? And they were open about it. They were open that they were going to use that information to discriminate on people. And I was like, oh no, that's a lawsuit. That's a lawsuit. And they had no fucks about it. And I'm like, oh, have you been doing this the whole time? To people? Because you're not going to fly that shit with me. You're doing it to people that are uneducated. You're doing it to people that are less, they're uneducated and they don't have a lot of money to go fight your ass. See, with me, I'm a good defense lawyer on my own, acting that way, because I'll go fucking at you like a pit bull, you stupid trashy woman. But then I will go get a lawyer. They were trying to bar me from getting a lawyer. Oh, man. And they took that whole thing not serious, nothing. And I'm scared now because they obtained private information from me, from these people and all this stuff. Then they started trying to sneak in, you guys, they were trying to sneak in documents to me to let them take my private info and put it and give it to LAPD. They try to put it in a document, like, okay, LAPD something, something, and we have the right to share that information with law enforcement. I was like, fuck you, bitch, get that shit out of here. And I crossed it out. Yeah, they were trying to do that. And so they've been sneaking that on people. So they try to say they did that to everybody. I'm like, well, if you did that to everybody, then shouldn't we have a mass class action lawsuit on your stupid asses? Like, what is that? Yeah, and they fled. That's why I said, I go, they used to come here. They were like fucking psychotic, like CIA coming up in here. They'd be coming in my house. They were checking everything out and shit. And I'm like, you need to get the fuck out of here. Then every month or something, they were trying to do some shit. And they're like, sign this, sign that. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm like, give me a lawyer. Give me a lawyer now. I told you this is all I wanted. A lawyer and this other thing. That's it. I didn't ask for anything else, did I? I'm lawyered up. So why are you fucking with me? Yeah, they knew it. I was lawyered up at the time when I met them.